our agenda back by the front door for anybody who would like one. We only have one item on our agenda tonight, the Urban Renewal District Agreements. For anybody who doesn't know our process, work session's a little more informal. We don't make formal binding decisions, although we'll occasionally have a vote to give direction to staff. Those formal decisions are left for our regular business meetings, which are a little more formal. And our procedures tonight are more informal with a lot of discussion, just trying to get ready for those other meetings. So before we jump into public comment and then that first agenda items, two things. One, I want to just remind everybody about these microphones. They're very directional, so it's important that we stay close to them. And especially if you're turning your head to talk to somebody else, just try to keep it close. Otherwise, those who are watching on Channel 7 TV in particular have problems hearing our audio. So thank you to keep that in mind. And then before we go to public comment on any item, either on our agenda or not on our agenda, I'll just ask our city administrator if he's got any preliminary items, and I think you do. Chris?
I do, Mayor. Thank you. Just one on my end, and I'm going to turn it over to Chief St. John here in just a second. So relative to the incinerator incident update there, so we continue to work with the Department of Environmental Quality to receive what they call a certificate of fitness. It is a voluntary program that we are working with them on to receive that. That's what gives us that independent third-party facility is fit to operate out of. So don't have the contract signed yet, so I'm slightly hesitant, but it looks like we should have a contract with a firm to clean, to meet the standard for the DEQ for the incinerator room. That's the one place where there was a positive test. So late this week, and that possibly may carry into next week, they'll get that cleanup work done. And that firm, that company is working in partnership with Northern Industrial Hygiene, who's been involved throughout, and DEQ continues to say really are the experts in this space. And so as that work continues, I'll continue to keep you up to speed. Once we actually get those contracts, the timelines, and the scope of work, I'll be able to put that in writing for you. But that's the latest in our work towards that certificate of fitness. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Chief St. John. Some council had asked if he would provide us with an update on an incident that took place here over the last several days. So, Chief. No. Look at there.
Yeah. Mayor, Council, good evening. This is an overview of a situation that took place a couple weeks ago. It's garnered a lot of interest and comments. So I just want to provide an overview of what took place and allay some concerns of what we're hearing out there. For your information, and as you're aware, Billings is designated a high-intensity drug traffic area. Our drug task force is called Eastern Montana. We are one of 6 in Montana, the furthest east. It's comprised of local, state, and federal officers. We do receive grant money for operations, and the tasking is to disrupt and dismantle drug traffic organizations. So they routinely do long-term protracted investigations and execute search warrants. In this particular case here, we had a coordinated enforcement operation involving 2 properties, one that was in Warden and one down on King Avenue East. The operation was supported by personnel from HIDA, our City County Special Investigations Unit, which you know as CCSIU, and our Street Crimes Unit, which is SCU, and our SWAT team. What we do is, depending what the tasking is, we just put different hats on. So it was a HIDA operation, so everybody had their HIDA hat on as they went forth about their work. We got 2 district court warrants. They were obtained and signed, targeting narcotics and stolen property. The primary suspect was the grandson of the resident down on King Avenue. A threat matrix was applied to both locations, which we do anytime there's a search warrant. The Warden property scored 101, King Avenue East scored 91, and anything above 50 requires a SWAT deployment. The risk factors that are measured include criminal history, presence of firearms, narcotics, criminal records, things of that sort. The SWAT teams were deployed simultaneously to both locations due to the uncertainty of the location of our suspects. BPD SWAT specific to the King Avenue East property assigned 15 officers. They were supported by detectives and patrol, about 25 total. There were 3 buildings on the property, a main house, a trailer, and a bus. All of those needed to be searched, and search warrants covered all 3 of those properties. The team cleared the buildings with no problems. Prior to deployment, they were all briefed on the presence of the resident there, 90 years old. So we were taking care on how we conducted our business. Once the property was secured and rendered safe by the SWAT team, detectives took over and began a search. Additional resources were brought in from the Warden property. They'd already located and secured one of the suspects, and so we brought extra assets in. There were third-party witnesses who saw possible activity beneath one of the buildings, specifically the trailer. A canine that was on scene indicated for narcotics. Detectives removed skirting on the corner of the trailer. Some of it was rotted, so it fell apart. To look underneath, they did not find any narcotics underneath the trailer, but they did inside, up top. The other buildings were searched. The main residence is where we found 48 firearms in the basement. 17 of those turned out to be stolen. In all, there were 53 firearms recovered total between the 2 properties. And again, 17 of those were stolen. And that was after action assessment. Allegations in the property damage and mistreatment of the resident are unfounded. Commanders confirmed that care was taken to avoid damage. We did move some things that didn't get put back, but for the most part, there were no items that were destroyed. The resident was treated with respect and very carefully. Detectives explained the situation, escorted her back into the property to retrieve personal items. That is an uncommon courtesy and practice during search operations. There was a concern that we had ICE swooping down on this situation. That is not true. We had 1 HSI agent, one of 2 in Billings, I might add, and they were in a HIDA role assisting with the search and the investigation. So there was no immigration issues whatsoever. The grandson suspect in question was detained on federal charges and is awaiting state charges either this week or next. All agencies involved, based on our review, acted within policy and procedure, and if there was any property that was disturbed or disrupted, it was incidental and lawful. And I would say if there's going to be outrage about this entire incident, it should be with the grandson for bringing a criminal activity, criminal enterprise into grandmother's residence. We understand the concerns, appreciate the opportunity to clarify the facts. The operation was conducted professionally with restraint and respect. I have hundreds of photos, pre-search, post-search, body camera, which details and chronicles the entire incident from start to finish, and certainly what we're being accused of is not accurate. Mayor?
Very good. Thank you, Chief. Anything further from you, Chris?
No, I don't have anything further, Mayor, Council.
Okay. Councilor Neese?
Yeah, Mayor, I would just want to say to Chief and all those who did that incident and took care of that. No one is injured. And I really applaud you. That sounds like an awful lot of scheduling and making sure that everyone was treated fairly and nicely. So thank you very much. And thank you please thank the officers for what they did and helping get those guns off the street.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your
you.
report. Chief? With that, then we'll continue with the meeting. Our next order of business is our public comment on all items. So if people, we'll have an opportunity for public comment on the urban renewal districts when we get to that. But if you need to go, feel free to comment on that now or anything on our agenda or not on our agenda. Mr. Buchanan.
Believe me, I'd rather not be here. I don't think there's a city council person that doesn't.
And Gary, I apologize if you would just introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Gary Buchanan, 2108 Prior.
And I also should have said, we just asked that people keep their comments to 3 minutes and tell us your name. So go ahead.
Can I start over?
Of course.
I don't doubt that there's not a single city council person that doesn't support a new animal shelter. And that's what I've been working on. I was an anonymous donor. The press has asked me three times in the last couple of weeks, Mr. Aspenliner's letter to the council. And with a caveat that I want to move forward, I'm going to tell you about the conversation. Mr. Aspenliner called me. The conversation, I thought it was going to be about the jail or police. It was about the animals' problem with the methamphetamine problem at the shelter. He started and ended the conversation telling me to turn down to lower the heat at the animal shelter, including the director. I got very angry. I said, you are raising my heat about this. I thought it was inappropriate. I don't doubt his support for the animal shelter, but I think there's a fundamental lack of judgment when you call a donor and ask them to send a message. I'm not on the board. I think many of you know my wife is chairman of the raising money for the new shelter. That conversation did get hotter. I said that, what's the council going to do? I said, I don't blame these people for not wanting to go back in there. And I also said that I wrote a check. And since I'm no longer anonymous, I wrote a check to cover the medical expenses at the hospital. I think I gave them enough money to cover that. The other substantive thing is you told me that the Attorney General, you were going to visit with him, and that the new incinerator was in fact charging police and charging the FBI to incinerate what turns out to be 188 pounds of some amphetamine. That really bothered me because I said, and I think the FBI should be talked to about this, did the FBI use this incinerator because it was free? Or did they not want to pay the fee? That really bothers me, and I think it's worth looking at. We, from there, had a conversation. The press called me, and I told them last week I will speak once. And my view of the conversation is entirely different from what you put in your letter to the council. I think moving ahead, there's taking responsibility, there's liability. Some of you in particular have offered to help, and I think it's terrific. But I think that calling a donor that ended up being not anonymous, I'm sorry, I will end there and leave. I've said my piece.
Okay,
Thank
very
you.
good. We appreciate it and regret that any of this happened. I hope that the YVAS employees are doing well, and I think we all share your opinion, your desire to see the property back in use or find a new space. So we appreciate your contribution to our community and also to the animal shelter.
Start writing checks. There's a lot of expense.
Okay. Very good. And Councilmember Asplund, my encouragement would be not to extend this too far, but it would be improper for me not to just
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And first of all, man, I apologize to you, my colleagues, and to the residents of the city of Billings. this is a completely unnecessary distraction from the work that we're doing and trying to solve a solution, a problem. I have worked with Mr. Buchanan on a number of issues, primarily around the jail and increasing budget for the police department. And I have in the past respected Mr. Buchanan for his experience in this community and for his perspective. We don't always agree on things, but that's also why I call him, because I wanted his perspective on this issue. I know that he is involved in the shelter and has been for a long time. I've worked with he and his wife. And since I got on this council, I've been a supporter of the shelter. I think I made the motion to donate the land at Wilson Park. So what I said in my statement is exactly right. There is no point in that conversation that I ever insinuated, asked, or could be misinterpreted to have leaned on anybody to do anything on my behalf. I have absolutely nothing to gain in this scenario. I reached out to get perspective and to try to find a way that I could come back and find solutions to bridge the gap. At the end of the day, that's our job as council members, to try to work with our constituents, work with the community, gain perspective and understanding on these issues, and then come back and try to solve a problem. That's exactly what I did. I did nothing more, nothing less. I'm sorry that it was taken that way, but I'm not sorry for making the phone call and trying to understand different perspectives on problems in our community. And I'll do it for the rest of my term. That's how I operate. That's how I've always operated. And I have always been an advocate of the animal shelter. The insinuation that I used any kind of leverage, or the insinuation that my ethics or integrity are brought into question, is where I bristle, and I bristle very firmly. That is the most important thing to me as I do this job and as I operate in this community. And I have done nothing to bring that into question. I answer the phone every time the animal shelter calls to try to help them solve problems. And I have done it recently, and I have done it continuously. And I will continue to do that because I support the cause and I support the mission. I work to solve problems, and that's what I did. And if that was taken in the wrong direction or the wrong tone from Mr. Buchanan, that is what it is, and I can only control me. But I will continue to work the very same way. We have nothing to gain in sitting in these chairs. And frankly, I reached out because we need more people talking to people and solving problems collectively and collaboratively. We don't need attorneys firing letters at attorneys trying to solve problems. That does not help anybody. And at a time where we need that more than anything in our community, this sends the absolute wrong message. I am always here for constituents and people in our community to sit down and talk and gain perspective. I may agree, I may disagree, but I will always listen, and I will always try to understand the other side of the issue and other perspectives. Right now, we are moving in the right direction. The DOJ is working in concert to try to put an MOU together on the incinerator, and I'm looking forward to getting that in place to help move this item forward for our community.
Very good. Thank you for your support for the animal shelter. This community does support the shelter tremendously. We have an important partnership there. Thinking back to Mr. Buchanan's words, we all need to find ways to support them financially. And thank you for your support in that way as well. So some difference of perspective, but that's understandable. Thank you. We'll move ahead then. And is there any other public comment this evening on items on our agenda or not on our agenda? Senator.
Mayor, Council, my name is Mike Yakowicz, Y-E-K-A-W-I-C-H. And I have just a short moment. I want to file a compliment to all of
It's not allowed, but that's okay.
I have two reasons I'm here, but one is, we had road work on the south side. They did a great job. In my district, they did a great job. These guys are digging up the roads and putting old clay pipes into new PVC pipes. It's just great what they're doing out there. I bring my grandkids to the parks. They're excellent. They're doing great. Bring them to the library. And again, we forget sometimes the good in our community. And I'm not running for office, and you don't need to pay me anything for saying this. And Denise and Wynette, and I look at Andy and Gina, and all the staff are remarkable people. And when I meet them on the street, they don't know who I am. Most of them don't. They probably don't care who I am, but I just am impressed by the quality of the staff we have here in our city. And it just goes, I've been in your chairs before, and a lot of people rightfully may file complaints, but really to thank you for your hard work and the effort. And it exemplifies in their leadership, like Chief St. John, who I really respect and admire as well. So staff is amazing, and I just want to thank you for that. The other part of it is that we continue to work on our behavioral health facility. And I wanted to, again, extend an invitation to all of you for tomorrow from 9 to 11. We're going to be bringing together a lot of providers. We're expecting 30 to 40 people to show up at the CLDI building, corner of South 29th and First Avenue South from 9 to 11. And again, to discuss, to listen, to learn about what are the gaps that we need to address in order to make this an awesome facility. And I am very optimistic, Mayor and Council, that this is going to be transformative for our community. We will be able to take behavioral health to a new level and to be able to enhance it for our whole region and for our state. And it's the ownership that we will be able to display with partners. We're not hiding anything. We're asking them to please give us what won't work. How can we make it work? And I believe with our conversation with DPHHS, with the governor, and with our community, we can have a home run here. And we know that we are facing behavioral health issues and crisis to one level, but I believe this is one piece to the puzzle to make a successful turnaround in bringing better behavioral health in our community. So, Mayor, thank you for this, for all you do. You're all welcome tomorrow, and we'll continue to work with you. We had a city council meeting. We brought legislators last month to about 5 legislators and a county commissioner. So we're definitely not hiding it. We're definitely just out there letting you know we want to engage and talk and learn. So have a great night. And I may miss you, but I need to go.
Very good. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Any other public comment this evening on items on our agenda or not on our agenda? Again, there'll be an opportunity when we get to the other item.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman, my name is Paul Clark, Southside, 4 blocks down from Mike. I've got a couple, you've seen to cover the Yellowstone Valley Animal Shelter. My concern is Mr. Buchanan and Mr. Aspender, that happens. Don't worry about it. It's part of the deal. What I would like to know is, why are we tearing apart a park, Wilson Park, if you want to call it that? It's contaminated. The water's bad. You can't, I have a garden in the backyard. If I sprayed the house, it would turn brown. That's how bad the sugar factory and the Superfund is. Why on earth are we going there? You have a lot of vacant buildings, including the old Sam's Club. There are other places on North Side that are already built. You don't have to build a brand new building. You already have some. All you need to do is renovate. This is one example. This was a federal building. I signed up, joined the military back 100 years ago, whatever. But this was the building. We could have bought it, but we didn't. We hesitated, and we bought it again and spent, I don't remember, $3 million, whatever it was. There was some asbestos. Okay, that's one. Number 2, this 6th Street underpass. Mr. Mike and I like to call it the swamp. If you're sitting there at that 6th Avenue underpass, that's a beautiful smell. Doesn't that smell great? So does the sugar factory. We have to ask, if Mike would have been here, our state senator, what can you help us with? Because the city is saying we need help. The state is saying you're on your own. We need some clarification on that. Please help me. I had a third one, and Mr. Mike already brought it up, but it's golden, you guys, and the police officer, the chief of police. I know the granddaughter, I know the grandmother and that family, and it's hard to believe that what he did to his grandfather and grandmother is despicable. But it happened and it's not right. They shouldn't have been handled, supposedly manhandled that way. I don't think they were, but it's very frightening when, you know, they come through your door and badges and guns. But it happened. Hopefully that's where it went. I'm sure you guys, and along with the police, said, ma'am, you're fine. We apologize if anything's bad, but this has to stop. There's drugs and there's firearms on this property that should not have been there. You didn't know about it. I don't know what the consequences with this man, other than he's going to go away for a long time, and he should. It's a big job, you guys, and there are new people here wanting to run for the election in November, and those that are stepping down, I don't know who all is, but you had a good run. It's time to move on. And I thank you. Hey, that one got better.
Good,
All right.
thank you. Any other public comment at this time? Is there any other public comment before we close the public comment period? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment period, move on to our first item and last item of the meeting. Our TIF agreements, proposed TIF agreements. Gina is shown as the presenter here. Chris, should we turn it to Chris or to Gina, or do you have anything else?
Just in brief introduction, this is what probably the third time we've had the conversation. The direction of the agreements that are in front of you are consistent with the direction that was given, I think, at our last work session, which was to put agreements in place that, in essence, mirror the way that we're operating while being compliant with the new state laws. So that's what we've attempted to do, and I'll turn over to Gina here. As the memo says, we had an opportunity to sit down with each of the TIF districts and any representative that they wanted in that meeting to bring this before you. So, you know.
There, it's working. Okay. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I don't have a presentation, but this item is being brought to you because we told you we would bring this back to you so that you could review these agreements. These agreements are replacing the MOUs that expired they actually just expired again, an extension on October 1st. So these agreements are replacing those MOUs. These are generally the standard city agreement, just with some tweaks to apply to these circumstances here. But there isn't any action necessary tonight. We just wanted you to be able to have the opportunity to review these, discuss anything that you see concerns or questions with on these agreements. The funding portion is included. Andy included that in the fiscal effects. If you have any questions about that, these are draft agreements. There may very well be some additional tweaks or edits, revisions, adjustments that may be needed, but they're pretty close to final form. One thing I wanted to mention that the mayor wanted to make sure that I pointed out was in the funding portion in the agreements, which is also set forth in the staff memo. Excuse me, the first line of November 1st to June 30th is obviously the prorated version, which is why it's a little bit less in each than the following 3 years, because we're anticipating these agreements will be effective around November 1st. So again, that could change given the date of the effective date of the agreements, but that's why those amounts are a little bit different. It's consistent with the budget amounts that were approved previously just in August, right? In August, so there isn't anything different there, that there weren't any adjustments made. And with that, I don't think I have any other comments.
Okay, thank you. Questions for Gina? You've all had a chance to review the documents. Hopefully, they've been in the packet. So, Councilmember Kennedy.
This isn't a question, this is a change that I'd like to see. I'm just looking at one of the contracts, but it's number 3 in the term. This agreement shall be in effect from the effective date until June 30th of 2029. I would like to see a change in that term to say the agreement shall be in effect from the effective date until June 30th of 2026, and then an option for year 2 and an option for year 3. And I know it states here that the agreement can, with a 30-day notice, be otherwise that the within a 30-day notice can dissolve the contract. But I do think that we should have 1 year option for the second year and an option for the third year. So if we go a different direction in year 2 or year 3, we have that option. If not, it could be a 3-year contract with exercising the other 2 options. I'd like to see that as a change.
And if I may just follow up, just to clarify, so the proposal is to have it be a 1-year agreement, and upon mutual agreement, an option for extension for one year 2 and 3.
Actually, what
correct?
I've seen before is that we have a 1-year agreement with the option to renew that agreement for year 2 and an option to renew that agreement for year 3.
Okay, so to extend solely on the city, in the city's discretion.
Yeah, you do
Okay.
have, actually, you have each of those, you have terms there.
Mhm.
You can leave the terms in there, but each of those options would be option for the July 1 of 26 and then July 1 of 27 to get you, or however each of those numbers work out. You have an option because it gives the council an option to look at different ways to administer these tax increment financing districts in the future.
Councilmember Kennedy, understand the big, general concept. I wonder if you could have a little more discussion with our city attorney about the triggering mechanism for renewal. Usually you see some sort of a default from inaction. In other words, if nobody says they don't want it to renew, it does renew. Or you could say it just automatically expires unless somebody does trigger the renewal. But I'm just trying to think what's the default and what's the exact mechanism and what time period, because it's not fair, obviously, to have, an hour before the deadline when one party can take action or not.
Well, Mayor, part of this came out of, there's a clause in there of 30 days notice and you can get out of the contract. So what I'm trying to do is have an option, one, second year option and a third year option. So at least you have a year, and then we could say something such as with an option of 3 months before the end, the council would vote to go with option year number 2 and then option year number 3. I don't know, legal would have to look at it to see what the correct wording is. I just want to give the council an opportunity as we look. We've discussed before the administration of the tax increment financing districts. I know looking at the costs of tax increment financing districts, if we were able to save some money in the future, we might look at that. So right now, with them going forward, we would have, each of the tax increment financing districts would know that we have 1 year, and then they have a year 2 if the council agrees in year 3. So it could be a 3-year perspective. I just want to give the council an opportunity to look at all options over the next year.
Okay, thank you. Other discussions or other questions for Gina, Councilmember Asselmeyer? And then we'll want to make sure, obviously, that the representatives from our TIF districts have an opportunity to address the council after your questions as well. And we can have some general discussion after they've had a chance to comment. Councilmember Asselmeyer?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. And I'm not 100% sure, Gina, if this is a question for you or for Chris or for Andy. So I'll throw it out there and you guys can wrestle about who wants to take it. In this contract, as the contracts are written, the way that I understand it is we are agreeing to incremental increases in the next contract years, particularly, you know, the eBird and the South TIF don't have any increases proposed over that 3-year, but the downtown TIF does. And so if we execute this contract, even if we put a clause in about the renewal, are we agreeing to that fee by signing the contract? Is that fee presented and discussed and approved by council every year? How functionally does that work?
Councilmember Asmelmeyer, that's correct. The amounts are negotiated, so those are set. So, in all of the agreements, the amounts were negotiated and are set forth as stated and would be set for future years. And if there are budget issues, there could be amendments made to the contract. There would need to be amendments made to the contract, an amendment made to the contract.
Okay. And I don't know, Mr. Mayor, if you're looking for comments at this point in time, or you just want to continue with the questioning, or how do you want to handle it?
Why don't you
How
go
do you
ahead and
wanna
make your
handle that?
comments, because that way our TIF representatives
Sure.
can react to that without getting into it too deep, because we'll have an
Sure.
opportunity to discuss a little bit more later.
So, I mean, it's no surprise, it should be no surprise to anybody, because I've raised this concern for months now, and even last year at the budget time. We're spending a lot on administrative costs. And if you look at the breakdown of these tax increment finance districts and the management fees associated with them, and they're pretty hefty associated with what that amounts to. I mean, the South TIF on the gross, that's not the net of what's obligated for debt service, but on the gross increment that's generated before debt service is even taken into consideration, you know, roughly, Andy provided me these numbers. The downtown TIF generates about 2.85 million. The eBird generates only 890,000, almost 900,000. And then the South TIF generates on gross 5.5 million. And if you just take a percentage of these things on the gross, and this number gets a hell of a lot worse on the net, the percentage of management fee to fund available is very high in the downtown TIF and on the eBird, and remarkably low on the South TIF. And I only say that to continue to stress that we have got to be way more efficient about how we manage these things and make sure that we're not paying a bunch of soft costs out of the increment, which is supposed to be used to leverage economic investment in these TIF districts. The South TIF's proposal looks very good. It's also the most successful TIF district probably in the state of Montana. And they're doing a lot with a little, and I applaud them for that. The eBird and the downtown TIF have a hell of a lot of work to do to understand how do we make sure that we're maximizing the increment generated and not spending it on soft cost management costs and taking those dollars out of play for leveraging economic investment. I mean, these numbers are really, really, really high. I have no idea how the downtown TIF management cost is more than 2 times what the South TIF is with a much smaller increment and how it continues to grow. Like I struggle with that. And I've said that before. That's not a surprise to anybody. But we have to be able to get that under control. And that TIF is not one that grows and is continuing to grow. I mean, hopefully we'll see some increment with the AC hotel when that gets built. But we have got to be better stewards of these dollars. And I'm not convinced that the budgets proposed and the salaries associated with this are us leveraging the TIF dollars to the best of our ability. And that continues to be my struggle with these TIF districts and with independent management of the TIF districts. I appreciate Councilman Kennedy's suggestion of one-year options because I think at these costs, we have to look at a consolidated management approach with the 3 TIF districts. If our costs are going to continue to exceed $700,000 with duplication of management over 3 districts, as a business, you would never do that. And we have to look at that and have an honest conversation about that, and we're not. So I'll support changing this to a one-year option for that reason alone, because I think we have to do some work to look at consolidated management of these TIF districts to best leverage one of the only economic development tools that we have in this community.
Okay, very good. Additional questions, brief comments. Again, we want to come back and then Councilor Owen, Councilor Gillick.
Gina, I don't have the history of these TIF agreements, but is there an inherent reason why we need to have the fees in here? Why we wouldn't just have a clause saying that, management fees are subject to annual appropriations?
I think Andy wants to address this. I don't think that there's a reason that we couldn't have such language. I'm just not sure if they would agree to that. So, but I think, yes, the language could be adjusted.
Can you share with us, did it come up? Did the TIFs request multi-year assurances? Did we throw it in there? Is Andy moonlighting as an attorney again?
Yes. So putting it in there was my suggestion. Yes, putting it in there was my suggestion. Historically, as you all recall, during the budget each year, it's been part of that budget number. And, as the budget was approved, that's what we paid the districts or the organizations. Very frequently, I was asked, well, how are these amounts determined? And candidly, I always felt like I was in a precarious situation because when we have a contract with any other firm to do anything, I can go to a contract and, if it met the dollar thresholds, it came to you guys, like we can point to a document that was individually approved. And we don't have that right now. So that was at my request that these be included in there, just so it's a lot clearer that, this document approved that amount rather than the budget, which we're not approving individual line items per se.
Yet.
I'll stop moonlighting as an attorney if you stop. But that's why they're in there, was largely at my request.
I would be interested in further exploring if we could just strike the table altogether. You make fine points, I don't disagree, but locking this in over long term seems like we're just going to be making budget amendments, knowing that we're heading into a difficult budget couple of cycles. I'm not sure that we want to commit long term to fees at this point for what that's worth.
Councilor Gillick and Councilor Neese.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So I'll be interested in hearing from the urban renewal districts. I guess what I'm especially interested in hearing is what are the services that are provided? Again, kind of reviewing that. I believe they're more than just administering the TIF program. So I just want to make sure that's clear and understand that, and also hear from them. What are the implications in terms of their staffing or planning for the future if we have a shorter term? Interested in hearing that feedback or just reflection on that. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else before we ask the TIF district representatives for feedback? Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Neese. I forgot.
Thank you, Mayor. Andy, is there a difference between, let's say the contract terminates in 1 year, if we went to 1 year terms, and the council were to say in a year or 6 months, say, you know, we're going to give you 30-day notice to terminate. What's the difference? How would the termination be handled differently? I mean, there's what clause in
I'm
there
not sure I
says if we get a 30-day notice, we have to pay them some fees or something like that. If it's a 1 year, if we're decide to terminate it, we're not going to be paying whatever fees and stuff like that?
I'm not certain I'm understand your question clearly. If I, well, my interpretation was if either party canceled this contract, then the payments would stop at that point. Is that answering your question or not? Maybe I don't
Well,
understand.
no, well, that helps, but if this is just a 1 year contract and we come along to the end of the 1 year and we don't renew it, it then terminates, correct? What's responsibility of the city at that time to make any payments or make good on it and the old contract?
My understanding would be if there's no contract, that they would cease providing services and we would stop paying for it. But
Okay, so under this contract, if we say we're going to terminate this in 30 days, then we're liable to pay them some ongoing fees until whatever the projects they've wrapped up are paid for, and that could last months and months down the road while we're taking care of that. Do I understand that correctly?
Under the agreement, so if if a 30-day written notice is provided to terminate, then the entity would be paid for whatever services they had provided or had performed up to that point. Then they wouldn't be providing any more
So it's
services.
not any additional, it's nothing they have to wrap up, so they're done in 30 days, and then we move on to something
Right,
else. Okay.
right.
All right. And then I will notice, and maybe you've mentioned this or pointed this out somewhere, I didn't see it, but the two of the agreements, the numbering is off. I think Sabura and the eBird have 2 number 6s.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out why
Automatic
they
numbering
weren't
can't
numbering.
be possibly
Yeah.
be my fault.
So you may want to correct that. I'm actually kind of on board with this. First of all, I'm definitely not on board with having pre-numbers there that are escalating, 3% over the time without the council actually weighing in on those numbers each year. So I won't support having escalating numbers like that. I think the council needs to do that, and I think the best way to do that is to look at them yearly. And so I agree with Councilmember Kennedy on the renewal. I think we probably should, as the mayor pointed out, there has to be like a 60-day notice or something like that, some kind of time notice to say we're either are not going to renew it or we are going to renew it, something like that, so that there's some understanding of both the parties knowing that, hey, we're going to renew it, so we're going to have it on an agenda in 60 days, and so it also gives them the opportunity every year to look at the agreement and make some adjustments and changes. It's not just us. I think they can also come to us and say, hey, listen, this isn't working out, or state law change, we're going to change this MOU this way. But I do, and I think I will support that if that comes up for a change.
Okay, let's give the representatives of our TIF districts. You've heard some of the discussion. Don't have to limit your comments to that, but I don't know who wants to go first. The first one in our packet is the downtown district. So why don't we start there, and we'll just go in the order that they appear in our TIF or in our packet. So, Katie.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Katie Schreiner with Downtown Billings. I'll just take the comments, I guess, one by one. Councilmember Kennedy, you asked about the contract time 1 year versus the 4 years that's itemized in here. I think from our perspective, it is really no difference to us how we do that. Our expectation going into this is that we will be still presenting a budget for how Fund 203 is budgeted for the upcoming fiscal year during the budget cycle, as we have done every single year that we have been managing the Urban Renewal District, which is since its inception. So we had planned on from the beginning to come and present the work plan, the budget, where you'd see Fund 203, the projects that have been already approved by council, projects that we would hold places for, knowing that they are coming down the line. And part of that has always been our management fee of that presented as part of the budget. So whether it's a 1-year contract versus 4, neither here nor there for us. We fully anticipate proceeding at business as usual to present that on a yearly basis. Does it sure make it easier for everybody if you can say, we agree to continue doing this work for an X number determined time and allow us to continue to do that? Absolutely. But if your choice is that it's in 1 year with an option to renew, we are okay with that. Again, it is business as usual for us. This is a conversation that comes up for us every single year. What questions will they ask us about our management fee? Sometimes there's lots of questions. In the past 3 to 4 years, there have been no questions about it. So to move on to Councilmember Aspenleiter's question, the contract value for this is beyond the administrative costs of managing the applications for tax increment financing grants that come in. Far beyond that. You just saw not too long ago a line of people who came up and spoke to the value of the work that we do that goes beyond the administration of these contracts, working with the city staff to do that. We are always willing to look at efficiencies and how we can change that on behalf of our community, the community that we do this work for to develop downtown Billings. It is an unfair statement to say that we are not growing as a district, that we are not seeing projects happen. And I will say that if we approach this with a hands-off approach to this, projects like the AC Hotel do not happen. Projects like the old Billings hardware building that's getting ready to start construction do not happen. The number of projects that have happened in downtown Billings over the inception and course of the history of this tax increment financing district do not happen if you do not go out and speak to developers. Make sure that the path is clear for them as they navigate working with the city to make their project happen. That we navigate the process of actually filling out these applications, making sure that they are clear, making sure that when we come to present to you a project like this, that it makes sense to you, that it makes sense for our community. And beyond the tax increment financing district grant itself and the funds that we manage for the city on behalf of the city itself, the number of aspects of the work that we do, the list is as long as my arm. To just speak to a few that have been incredibly beneficial and impactful that come directly out of the Downtown Billings Partnership and our management of an urban renewal district that has a plan approved by this body, speak to the marketing that we do, to bring developers to downtown to actually take a look at it, to make it a safe and attractive place for people to do business, business recruitment and retention. The number of businesses that we speak to on a weekly basis who want to come and do business in downtown Billings is extensive. We tour them around to every single available spot in downtown. We know of how many the vacant spaces we have. We know how much it's going to cost for a business to do that. And we make sure that they have a path forward to find every single incentive that they can find to help them succeed in starting their new business. We see an average of 25 new businesses every single year in downtown Billings, and not a single one of those comes in without our office and our team touching them. On top of that, the strategic planning that we do for downtown Billings as a whole on behalf of our community is extensive. It happens every single month out of our office with our board. And what I would encourage you and the entire council is to come and join us at a board meeting where you hear us talk about the work that we're doing for downtown Billings. This is not something where we take in an application once a month and then we process it and send it on to Wyeth or Chris or Andy or Gina to look at. This is work that we do every single day because we love our community and we love downtown. And it goes far beyond just the administration side of this. And we are always, always willing to come in and have conversations about how to be efficient. To move on to Councilmember Owen, does it need to have the contract value in here? No, we never proposed that the value was in there because we come in every single year and we present our budget, we present our work plan, and you see the Fund 203 forecast with every single project that we bring to you, where you see our budget, you see what we're forecasting our community tax increment financing district for downtown. So every single year we anticipate coming in and talking about that budget. So we have no anticipation of needing to see that in this contract and have it be a set amount for 4 years. It was never our intention to do that. And the reason that it has an incremental increase, we've done that for the last 8 years. There's no change in that. If you look at Fund 203 that you guys have seen as part of our applications that we bring to you and the projects that you're approving, Fund 203 as it's presented shows our administrative values every single year increasing by 3%. That's a cost of living so that we can continue to do the work that continues to exceed, I think, every expectation that our community has of us. Councilmember Gulick, when you talk about the services provided, I hope I've spoken to that to some extent, but it goes far beyond just the administrative side of this. That's an important and valuable piece of this. We work very closely with the city staff to make sure that these applications are well prepared, well presented, and very clear to not only you as a body, but to our community, so they understand why it's important to help incentivize and facilitate development like this. It's in the messaging, it's in the marketing, it's in the communication that we put out day in and day out of our office. It's very important. Councilmember Nice, 1 year versus 4 years. Again, I'm going to say it. We come every single year prepared to talk not only about the forecast for Fund 203, the projects that are ahead of us, the projects that we've completed in the past year, but we have come, and you can ask Andy, prepared with our budget to talk about it. We know that you guys have questions about it, and year after year after year, it gets kicked down the road. And so then we had this conversation in kind of midterm, and we say, okay, what do you guys want to hear? I can tell you who this pays for on my staff. I can tell you the work plans of each one of those staff members, but every single year we are prepared to do that, and I am prepared to do it again. I have the information ready for you guys when you're ready to have that conversation, and whether this is a 1-year contract or something more extensive, I am prepared every year to come in and give you the forecast of the year ahead of us and the successes that we've seen in the year past. I'll come more frequently than that if you want me to. I'll come quarterly and give you guys updates. I'll come every single month and give you guys a 15-minute update on what we are doing downtown, because I believe in the work we are doing. We are having an impact on our community. I am emotional about this because I care. I care very much about this work. And if this contract were taken away from the partnership, or if it were just to be seen as something that is administrative in nature alone, you would see a serious deficit happen in the development of downtown Billings. I believe that wholeheartedly, and that does not come out of the paycheck that I get every day or the work that I do. It is important, it has value, and I hope that you can see that. And I am here to present that to you whenever you want me to. There is no hidden agenda on our side of it. We are a transparent and open organization working to make downtown Billings better. So I'm happy to turn it over to my counterparts. We will be here for questions as many times as you need us to tonight. I have Mehmet Casey with us. I kicked him out of his role to present because I care so much to be able to say what I needed to say. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Katie, and thank you for your efforts and the efforts of your staff. I guess the next one in our packet is the bird. Heather.
Thank you all for having me tonight, Mayor and Council. I love going after Katie because she says so many things so that hopefully I don't need to repeat myself so much. So totally lost my train of thought. Mr. Kennedy, as far as the contract goes, we don't care if it's 1 year, 6 months, all of that. Ms. Owen, the dollar amount, we did not expect to see that in there. Actually, when we sat down at the table, we were kind of shocked on that. The thing, I guess, that I'll speak about for specifically the bird is urban renewal is not just filling out TIF applications, and that is the service we provide. The bird was founded by the people in that neighborhood who are still in that neighborhood. Those people, those are my bosses. I understand we contract with you guys, but I answer to the people who walk through my door every single day. They call me when they have alley issues. They call me when they have leaky roofs. They call me when they have a bad day. They call me when they have people living in vehicles outside of their place. Urban renewal is not just all of us sitting in one place and having somebody fill out applications. The value that we collectively bring to the areas we work in, if you speak with the people in those areas, you can't quantify that with money. We care because we grow an attachment to these people because it is important. We love to see people thrive. We're finally getting to a point in the bird specifically where we're going to have development come. There are going to be things coming that 15 years ago, those things weren't possible. We have had amazing, amazing leaders at the bird. We had Tim, who got all of the street projects done, who got things, the drains uncovered, who got sidewalks, curbs, gutters. He got all of the lighting done in the district. Zach started the projects of art. Michelle revitalized an entire flippin' park that now is low crime. because of the way that has been revitalized. She also brought the Mural Festival, which brings tons of people, tons of entertainment, a lot of hype about the area. That is really, yes, our job is to fill out TIF applications and bring them to you. The worst part of the job is bringing them to you guys, honestly. But our job is so much more than that because it's really selling a dream that the people who built the bird believed in and our business owners believe in, and that they have empowered us to take out there and run with. That's me.
Great, thank you. And Dick? South Billings.
Good evening. I am the representative for the South Side Urban Renewal District. And I also agree that it doesn't matter whether it's a 1 year or 5 year deal. I would, more than happy to come every year. Just for example, last year, you talk about the size of the budget. I lowered our budget from $176,000 to $160,000 because we didn't need that kind of money last year. And so our district doesn't go up every year. And it's depending on what we need. I am advocate of annual budget renewals and looking at it because we don't know what projects are coming, and especially in the South Side now. I anticipate a lot of increase in requests if we do go through and if we finalize the increase in the district. I just driving up and down 27th Street. I look at projects that can be done with our South Side TIF district to make the entrance into Billings a heck of a lot better. You go by houses that need to be torn down or cleaned up or whatever. We talk about what do you do to earn it? There's many nights at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, I'm driving around my district to see what's going on down there because, it has a reputation of maybe not being the safest. And what can we do as a TIF district to improve that safety? And I did it like 4 or 5 nights in a row. 10 o'clock at night, trying to find out what can we do there just on the safety part of the deal. I know on the original draft I got had a $9,000 cut from a year ago on our budget, but I would like the flexibility of every year being able to come in and if we have new projects that are going to require some kind of funding from our TIF budget, just the budget we're talking about basically right now, is have that flexibility to either go up or go down and not have it set at $135,000 or $144,000 dollars annually. We have no idea of all the kind of projects that I've got an idea that I'd like to look at for the South Side. What would we pay a consultant or somebody to come in and do a $25 million economic development project in our community a year? Would $140,000 or $160,000 do that? I really disagree with that. I think it'd be in the millions to get a project like that developed and have it going and under construction like we did on the South Side for $160,000. And that's just one project. We had the hotel, we had the self-service express loop. We have $30 million worth of warehouse down there. We have 72 apartments going in for affordable housing. I think the money we spent on the TIF district is minuscule to what the value that we're actually given to this district. And as we add it, I'm willing to put in the hours to take on that extra 40, 50, or 60% that we're going to look at adding and see what a difference we can make over the next 4 or 5 years, whatever time I have left. And I'll put in the hours. I think, they said, well, how are you going to do real estate? Well, I have made about $5,000 in real estate this year because I've been spending all the time with the TIF district. And I really believe in the TIF districts. I think these guys do a great job. And it's not just standing there, again, taking applications, but it's going out to see the ways what we can do to improve our district. And I've got some ideas that things I think we can bring down to that South Side. And my phone, I keep it by my bed, right beside me. And you guys can call me day or night if you want to. And I'm there for you. And I appreciate you guys supporting this project, the rec center project especially. It was a real battle for several years, and nobody wanted to take it on, and we took it on down there in the Suburra, and we're all going to be proud of it.
Okay, thank you, Dick. And again, thank you for your efforts. Thank all 3 TIF districts, making a huge difference in our community. Back to council. Council, any other questions for these folks or comments? Again, we need to give direction to staff. Councilmember Boyette, Councilmember Kennedy.
Thank you, Mayor. Katie, can I just ask you a question? If I'm going to know that I'm going to work there for 1 year or maybe 3 years, is there any trouble with employee retention by the fact that, oh, I may only work 1 year, at least or I'm having guaranteed for 3? Do you see any issues with that at all?
Mayor and Council, Councilmember Boyd, I do not see any issue with that. I've been able to retain a staff on salaries that are far below what their peers make in other organizations. In the private sector, they do this work because they love it. They will continue to do this work. Short answer, no.
I'm sorry, Councilor Kennedy, Councilor Neese?
Gina, on 19 under legal relations, that the district shall comply with federal, state, and local laws and ordinances applicable to the work to be done. The question I have is, all of these are subject to the Little Davis-Bacon Act. Can we put that in there? Because there are contracts that do go out that don't have that in there. And I have heard over and over again that these dollars are subject to the Little Davis-Bacon Act. So can we have that in this contract?
We could include well, that term goes in all the development agreements because that's where it's applicable. We could clarify here that that language goes into the development agreements. If you want that there, it's not necessary because it goes into the development agreements because that's where it's applicable. But you
I would
it.
like to see it there. Thank
Okay.
you.
Councilmember Neese, Councilmember Ripsis?
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I see Wyeth on screen, so I was going to ask him a question. Wyeth, you there? Great. Hey, Wyeth, these agreements are not going to change anything the council may require as far as some of the matrix and stuff that we asked for, on the application. So as far as the application agreement, we're not setting that in stone. That's something that we can work with you and the TIF districts to say we'd like to see a standard application, standard matrices, things like that. Is that still correct?
Councilmember Neese and Mayor and Council, yeah, that is correct. And actually, some of the conversation as we were developing these and the scopes is to continue to normalize and standardize those materials and presentations as we've been working on that, and we continue to need to work on that. So yes, that would continue, and we would I think see some improvements also because of the way these new advisory committees are going to be operating as well. But yes, to answer your question.
Great, thank you.
Councilor Ripsis?
Thank you, Mayor. Gina, I just want to give you a chance to clarify that. The Davis-Bacon Act applies to federal projects. Just because it's getting local or state TIF funding does not require something then to be subject to the Davis-Bacon Act. If a specific project is also getting federal funds, they may be subject to it, but it's the federal requirement that's placing on it. There's nothing in the local or state requirements that requires TIF projects to be subject to Davis-Bacon. We have that option if we wanted to enforce it. If we wanted to push that through, we could certainly say that at the local level, but there's nothing legally that requires it. Is that right?
I should have been more clear. I was interpreting the question to be a request for the language, the prevailing wage language, which is required for certain contracts in Montana. So I should have clarified what the request was, right? It's the prevailing wages language requirement. I assume that's what
I'm sorry, Gina, go ahead.
I assume that was what Councilmember Kennedy was referring to, but I should have clarified because that may not be what he was referring to.
And Councilor Ripsis, there's a distinction between the federal Davis-Bacon Act, which is what you're talking about, and the little Davis-Bacon Act, which is the state version of that. So what you say, I think, is completely correct, but incomplete in that it doesn't address the implications of the state version of that. And I'm no expert, but my understanding from what Gina said is that all of our development agreements have always said the little Davis-Bacon Act, state law, applies to these contracts. I think we're good. Um, Okay, other things from council members. At some point, we need to get some clarity for staff, I think. Staff or council, correct me if I'm wrong. I am not hearing opposition to Councilmember Kennedy's suggestion that instead of having a 3-year technical term with 30-day automatic termination by anybody, that there be a 1-year renewal period or 1-year term. I guess it would still include the 30-year termination option, unless, and Councilmember Kennedy's nodding his head on that. But there would need to be built in some sort of procedure mechanism for both parties to know as you get closer to that deadline, what's going to happen. What are the rules? Are going to happen, renew automatically unless somebody says something, or does somebody have to say something? I'm not hearing any clarification on that part, so I'm assuming that's just something Gina will address. But are we in agreement that at least that part is going forward? I'm seeing some nodding heads. Chris, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, just for clarification, are we finishing out this year? So it's less than a year. That's why you see 8 months here. It seems to me you'd want to time this connected to the budget cycle. So in that case, or are you saying sign a 1-year contract from, November going forward?
Well, you should sign it from November going forward, and then your next is option 1, option 2, years to go forward.
And that date for the option 1 is tied to the budget cycle.
Is tied to the budget cycle. And then it was suggested that we had a 60-day notice before the renewal date came up. And that was 60-day notice, so at least each party could prepare. But we had asked for 60 days, and so something in there along the 60-day. We would notify whoever was the contractor at least 60 days out if we weren't going to go forward with the option that they had for the next year.
So just so I can clarify, I understood the general consensus to be that this agreement be not necessarily for a whole year, but to align with the fiscal year. So this first agreement would be a little less than a year. Okay.
More nodding heads, yes. Councilmember Boyette reminds me that although we heard from our TIF district, we didn't open it up for the public at large. And so thank you very much. Let's do that right now. We do have on our agenda an opportunity for public comment, and Wyeth also wants to be recognized. So we'll start with Wyeth. Wyeth, you are not subject to the 3 minutes, but maybe close. Go ahead, Wyeth.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Mayor and Council. I guess I just wanted to write exactly on what you were just talking about with the 60-day notice. I guess again, just to try to add further to understand clarity. So if we're on a budget cycle schedule, so by next this coming June, when the next budget would be completed, we would be preparing to renew, an option to renew for another year. But if we're doing 60 days before that, we're April, I guess, just trying to understand with the budget process, if it's trying to tie it to the budget process, that we just are aware of whatever these timeframes are. So just want to put that out there just so we're clear, because we may not know 60 days, or maybe we will, whether we're doing another option. So I just wanted to make sure I'm understanding that, tracking that. Thanks.
Wyeth, so my understanding is every one of these contracts would expire on June 30th of each year. And the first year, of course, will be less than a year because of that. So, and that would then coincide with the budget cycle.
Mayor, I think the point that's being made, though, is it would be most common that you're not in a position to adopt the budget or know exactly where you stand on April 1st. Or it would be May, I guess it could be May 1st. It's just pushing that timeline. Just pushing that timeline relative to the 60 days. Frankly, in that case, you may be better to be in a 30-day window, because you typically are adopting a budget in June. We know that in May, where we're going to land, but the further you go out, I think the harder it is for, you're pushing forward what you want the TIF and Andy and I to bring to you.
Okay, Councilor Kenny, Councilor Bernice?
My biggest thing is, if you're not going to renew a contract, do they want 30 days or do they want 60 days? And no matter what the budget is going to be and how much money you have, if we're not going to renew it, don't you want to at least give a 60-day notice to the entity? If not, 30 days is fine.
Councilor Bernice?
Yeah, and Mayor, Chris, this is just a notice. It's just a notice to let them know that this is, that we're either going to terminate or we're going to continue it. And that means it gives them the time to go through the budget cycle to get it in the budget so that it can be adopted in the budget. So I think that's the whole idea. If you can tie it to the budget, that gives them 60 days. It'll be right in our budget meetings. And if we approve, if the intent is to go through. So we, to Wyatt's point, we have to make a decision probably in April, probably should be on a work session. Are we going to renew these contracts going forward? So we can make that notice decision. Yes, we are. And then once we notify that, that's notice, and then they go ahead and prepare it in the budget.
Okay, Councilor Aspliner?
Thanks. And I mean, I guess I'll give just my individual perspective here. To me, I like striking the budget and approving the budget every year. But this 60-day notice, 30-day notice, renewal, not renewal, personally, I don't see us not renewing these contracts in this short window and operating. I mean, we all know we're going to have changes in seats on the council, and the new council is going to need to get affiliated with what we do here and understand and go through the first budget cycle within a month of getting on council. That's complicated and that's hard to learn. So I don't foresee us not renewing these contracts in June. But I think once that new council gets here and we have these conversations, I think we do have to have a more robust conversation next year about how we manage these things as a whole. And as a policy body, if we choose to continue management the same way that we're managing them now, then that makes this process fairly easy, and it's a budget process, just like it's always been a budget process. But having that 1-year renewal or that yearly renewal process in place allows us at least next year to have a more robust conversation with the districts themselves, with the people they represent, and with our community about whether it makes sense for us to change the management style. So for me, I don't see us not renewing it next spring, but I want to have an opportunity and I want to have a robust conversation about the way that we manage this, and does consolidated management make more sense going forward? And that is the whole reason that I bring this up. Personally, I think that's a conversation that we have to have, given that we're going to spend $700,000 plus in managing these 3 TIF districts. So that's my perspective on it. That's what I'm looking for. So I think the direction you've been given makes sense to me. That's where I'm going.
Okay, very good. Council, one other issue that was brought up during our discussion was the incremental cost increase. Are we including any sort of projection of future revenue for future years if the contract renews, which is currently built into that now? Only for the downtown district, not for either of the other districts. Councilmember Bernice.
My thought is any reference to any money in the contract should be taken out, and just refer it to the budget, the approved budget. And so that every year we'll approve their budget, whatever their payments are going to be. That way keeps it out of the contract.
Okay, that's Councilor Bernice's opinion. Does anybody want to speak in opposition or in favor of that? Councilmember Boyette.
So if we do 1 year at a time, then we should look at the budget 1 year at a time. So, you approve the budget for this year, and then the next year is an all separate unit. We could raise it or we could lower it. So no, it shouldn't be in this contract, the next 2 years.
Okay, I'm seeing some nodding heads. I'm not seeing any shaking heads. So Gina, it sounds like that's your marching orders. Are there other issues that came up that council wants to address about the contracts themselves? Okay. Anything further on this item at high level or at the granular level? I just do want to say something. I think it's a little bit obvious, which is the downtown district and probably Ebert would love to have a bunch of virgin dirt on an interstate that people are dying to develop on. These are different animals, and we understand that, and we appreciate the efforts. Every one of these districts is unique. I appreciate Councilmember Boyette raising the question of employees. We've been very fortunate in these districts to have incredible people devoted to these areas and and longevity. And it is a real issue when their jobs are hanging by a thread that might only be a 30 or 60-day period every year. We just need to be sensitive to that, and we appreciate their being patient with us and with the process. So anything else before we call this one a wrap? Okay, I think that, we had public, no, I just said we were going to. We had Wyatt, and then we didn't. I apologize. Public comment on this item, and I apologize for not getting to it earlier. Do we have some? Mr. Nelson? Yeah.
Kevin Nelson, 4235 Bruce Avenue. So essentially, you're asking for $659,638 of advice. Because that's all you do. I mean, they're just giving you advice. And then you take the information and then approve or don't approve the TIF grant. You know, you look at, I speak for, you know, you're given a tremendous amount of power here to just reach out and grab other taxing jurisdictions' money. We're just going to take it from you. And then you're going to come in here. And so you guys need $700,000 worth of advice to make a decision on a handful of TIF applications every year. I think there's a real issue with that. You think about that. That's, well, I don't want to get, that's about 3 city administrators' wages. That's 4 or 5 department heads' wages that you need to make a decision on a handful of TIF grants every year. I think you're conflating this, well, you know, this homeless person and we did over here, but you know, you have one obligation. You've taken the money from these other taxing jurisdictions to redevelop, not to spread this web out to all these other ancillary little issues you guys want to dive into with these groups. I mean, downtown's a perfect example. Or the East End. Will someone sleep in a car? You think the county residents really give a damn if they're sleeping in the car? You just took their money because someone's sleeping in a car? No. I think I think there's going to be a tremendous. I think the legislature's gearing up. I think they about had enough. I mean, when you show up in the legislature and say, yeah, they had to take all our state tax dollars, our county tax dollars, our school tax dollars, and we needed $700,000 worth of advice. They're going to say enough. So I would just caution you. I think Mr. Kennedy probably has the right approach here. I think it's sort of really time to condense this and consolidate it into one body that has one goal, and that is just administer the TIF districts. Just focus just on that. And I think you could probably do it for, I'll bet you could do it for 150 grand. So, I mean, you do what you want, but I think the optics is terrible. And since I got 15 seconds, this is nuts to give that much money for that kind of advice. Probably it's just crazy. Can you imagine your background for some of you more political people? Senator Kennedy from Louisiana chewing into you guys for this type of an approach, spending this kind of money. I could hear it now. He would have a heyday with you guys. Thanks.
Very good. Thank you. We have to agree to disagree on the value they bring to our community. Is there, You're pointing to another hand, Councilor Rupsis? Yours. Okay, I just want to make sure there's no other public comment. Is there any other public comment on this item before we close public comment period? No one's coming forward, so we'll close the public comment period. Councilor Rupsis.
All right, I'm sorry, don't want to drag this out further, but the comment that our partners in the DVP and the eBird and the South Billings District are only administering TIF grants, it needs to be addressed. And the reason I'm bringing it up now is because I looked at number one in this, I think probably isn't worded very comprehensively. Number one in all these contracts says the purpose of assisting the city in revitalization of the district for projects, regulations, planning, and to assist the Urban Renewal District Advisory Committee with a review of applications, render opinions, and give recommendations to the city council. I think that's underselling what the purpose of these partners do. I think we need to be reorienting this purpose statement to say their purpose is to implement the urban renewal plans. And we kind of hint at that, or we say that in number 4. But I think it needs to be clear in the purpose of what these recitals are, or what this contract is. It is not to just administer grants, because yes, anybody can just administer the grants and give recommendations. But the work that we all hear our TIF district consultants and partners doing goes far beyond that. The TIF grants and the administrative costs are the TIF money, the tax increment, is the tool by which they use to implement the plan. But the purpose, why they exist and why we benefit from their partnership, is the overall implementation of the plan. And so I think if we're going to talk about this contract tonight, we really should think about adjusting that purpose to be a better statement of why they do exist and why we're entering into that contract, why we're not just saying Wyeth can administer these grants. If this was really all it is, we'd probably just say Wyeth can do it, right? He's got lots of extra time.
Okay,
they do much more than that. So I would like to suggest that we should look at that, number 1, and come up with a better statement of what the purpose is.
Councilor Rose, I can make this suggestion. You're talking about a relatively minor change in the recitals. Rather than try to draft that tonight, what I would suggest is that if you come up with a particular phrase or additional sentence, you'd send that to Gina, but also include the whole council. That way they'll know and could weigh in with agreement or disagreement on that between now and when it has to end up in our packet. Okay. Very good. If that works for you. Then highlighting upcoming agenda items of council interest, Chris.
One of your most significant projects in the fall, I'll just reiterate from our last discussion, is the capital improvement plan. So we're in that process as a staff right now, but we're talking about ultimately hundreds of millions of dollars of investment over an extended period of time. So as we finish that work, you will begin to see that work in work sessions, not at our next meeting, but as we get into November, ultimately to be adopted before we leave for Christmas, as we will have some 3 or more new people at this table. So that, I would say unequivocally, is one of the most important things coming up to you in the near future. It's not an appropriation, always emphasize that, but it is one of, if not the first thing we look at when we create the budget each year, is what was in the capital improvement plan for the upcoming year. So that's the primary highlight, in addition to what, yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Very good, thank you. I'm going to recognize Councilor Kennedy, but I'm going to also ask Councilor Boyette to update us a little bit on something we could have raised in the last item, which was discussion by the Operations Committee about how we pick the city representative who would be on these 3 TIF boards. It's at least tangentially, of course, related to the agreements, but we'll come back to that if you could, and Councilor Venice was also part of that discussion. But before we do that, I'd recognize Councilor Kennedy.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I have 2 questions. The first question is, as we have a budget committee meeting this week, correct?
Incorrect. Isn't it next week?
Andy?
Next week, not this week.
Next week, okay. And I would hope that the agenda item would be on zero-based budget. Are we in agreement on that for the budget committee? Because I would like to get an agenda this week that states what the agenda is and get it time enough so I can schedule it in my schedule. So I would hope, because we had talked about starting right away with the zero-based budget conversation, we are going to need to go forward on that.
So I believe that was one of the topics we discussed for this agenda, this upcoming agenda. I think there were 2 items that I recall. Yeah.
Mike, yeah,
Yeah,
can you just get closer to the microphone?
Public Works had one item they wanted to bring to the Budget and Finance Committee, and then I believe the other item was zero-based budgeting.
Ed, that's your committee. Do you want to comment on it?
He stated it, yeah.
Okay, so we will get that agenda and know exactly what's going to be on it. Thank you.
Yes, and it is in the calendar already, again, for the meeting date, so.
Okay, but it would be nice to receive the agenda on it. The other question I have is, I'm a little confused, and Gina, you have to help me with this, because we just saw on the news this weekend that the investigation on the officer involved downtown and the shooting last year is scheduled in the future for an investigation. But you had already said to us that it's already been settled. So I have some confusion on that, because you had said that the insurance company had already settled with that. And then I watch on the news and see that there's an investigation going on. Can you explain that?
Yes, Councilmember Kennedy, the civil case that was settled was the civil claim against the city. What you've heard on the news is the inquest that needs to be conducted by that's conducted by the county attorney's office, and that's related to whether the police officer or the law enforcement officer acted. I can't remember exactly the language it uses for the inquest, but it essentially addresses like criminal behavior, whether that's appropriate or not appropriate, criminal or non-criminal. So those are separate, completely separate issues. I don't know if that helps or if
So
that
the
made much
civil
sense.
case can be settled ahead of time before the internal investigation.
Yes, it's not an internal investigation. It's a coroner's inquest.
Okay.
And I can send you some of the probably the statutory language might be helpful. I'm happy to send you some of that stuff
That
by
would be
email.
great.
Sure.
I appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Councilor, okay,
Roy
first.
I do the short story. Okay, so we had a conversation as council about the who's going to be the representatives on the TIF board, and I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, it came down to that we were going to have council members do it. We're not going to, and then the process though is what is in question is how did you guys think the process was going to be? My understanding was, and I'll just tell you, it's similar to what we do when we have open committees. Is we say we're interested in it. And if there's more than 2 people, two or 3 people, they talk about it, figure out which one it is, and then they talk to the mayor, say, Mayor, that's what I want to be on, and then you do it. The question would be is, let's say 3 people want to be on the same committee. I mean, on the downtown. I mean, that's everyone wants to, well, 3 people into downtown. How do you want to make that process go? Would you prefer to just have it drawn out of a hat, put 3 names in and pull a hat out? Is that what you would do? And
That was my understanding of our discussion is if everybody agrees, then there's nothing to decide, right? But if there's multiple people who want it, we would just put, there's 3 districts. So we'd put those names into 3 buckets and we would pick one out and that person would serve. They would then be disqualified from any of the others. We'd go to the second bucket and pick another name and we'd do it random. Is what was my understanding of what we'd agreed on as our recommendation, if that was okay with the council.
Mr. Mayor, I think we got to put a little bit more forethought in that than just random draw. I mean, the mayor sets the recommendations for every committee and puts those in front of the council. I think the same process should apply. The mayor's responsibility is to put the most appropriate person on that body, and that should be the mayor's responsibility to assign that. Everybody can show interest. At the end of the day, the mayor has to make that decision. That's part of your duties and responsibilities, and at least in that way, there's some more forethought than just random chance in a drawing, and there's some forethought to making that selection. So I am not in support of some kind of random draw thing. I think that's the mayor's obligation to set the committee and set the recommendation, and that should be where that lies.
Okay, so then I guess the other process would be then everyone submit an application to the mayor of what committee they want to be on, and then the mayor would get those applications and choose. And mayor, if you do a random draw, that's between you and your office, but and that's kind of what we talked a little bit about is, you know, that's how you do other committees outside of the council. But typically our council committees, everyone's just kind of agreed to serve whatever they wanted, and then the mayor appointed.
And I'll just comment, I'll do whatever the council wants me to do, but this is not a standard committee that our city ordinance describes that the mayor makes a recommendation to the council to be approved. This is the city's representative on these committees, and so that should be up to this body to decide. If you want me to make that decision, subject to some sort of approval by you or something, I'm happy to make a recommendation. But I don't think I do have that inherent authority in this case, but I'll do whatever the council wants done.
So Gina, that is because this is a little different than other committees. So does the mayor have the responsibility to appoint the actual person who is going to be on, for the city person who's going to be on the TIF districts? Unlike other committees, the mayor does have that responsibility.
Right. This is a different situation. Unfortunately, I don't have the resolution in front of me, so I don't recall if there's if we included some specific language about how that appointment was going to be made, but I would agree that this is a little bit different situation than the mayor bringing forth nominations for other advisory councils or other city boards. So I think I can understand why the mayor is proposing to do it. He wants council to have the final say, the appointment. I will look at the resolution because I simply just don't recall if there was something specific in there, if we did include, if you all did include some language about how that nomination was. You guys are remembering better than I am because I can see some shaking
Yeah, I don't
heads.
think there
So,
was.
yeah,
I
so
think
I
that's
think
why
you
the mayor
can
was bringing-
decide how you want that to occur.
So in lieu of that, because we have to get someone on the boards pretty quickly, so I guess we'll ask who's in favor of doing applications and turning it into the mayor. They just fill in an application of which board you're interested in and turning it in. Question.
Yeah, I don't think you're asking for who, but just who's generally in favor of having me make a choice versus the random
Sorry,
option.
I was interpreting into what Councilmember Neese was saying as an application form, and I'm not understanding why
Yeah,
Councilmembers can't just send you an
I agree
email.
with you. Yeah. I think I know most of you live in the city. Most of you are over 18, even if we don't always act it that way. So I think we can skip the application.
Okay.
But one way or another, give indication that that's a job you want. Remember, there's some of the other boards out there that you also may want to leave time for. RCRD board. There's going to be some vacancies created by people leaving, and that's going to open up some of those other things as well. That's also something to keep in mind. But still, fundamental question: do you want to have me make choices based on what you guys want, or do you want to make it more randomized?
Just everybody send the mayor an email if you're interested. Then mayor, you make the or you put forward the slate of these are who I recommend for the appointments. We'll vote on it and move on.
Okay, so still with approval by the council.
Yep.
Okay, I don't see anybody holding up a sign in favor of the random option. So I guess we'll go with that. Nobody's disagreeing, I guess. So, Councilmember Boyette?
So Chris Kowalski's review is due November 12th. So HR is going to send out the survey to the department heads, which we should get back within 10 days. I've been working on taking his review that we worked on last year, trying to make it a little better, a little calmer, a little better, a little faster, a little better. And I'm going to present that to the operations committee on Thursday, just to get their opinion of what we're going to do to make it faster, better, jump higher, easier to read, that kind of thing.
Okay, if you got any input on that, feel free to give it to Councilmember Boyette. Anything further way of, I guess we've been in council discussion before we move on finally to public comment on anything not on our agenda tonight. Okay, thanks everybody. Is there any other public comment on items that haven't already been addressed?
Kevin Nelson, 4235 Bruce Avenue. I know this subject has had a lot of comment, and that's the 6th Street underpass. Again tonight. You know, personally, probably none of you lived. I drive through that thing 3 to 4 times or more a day. Actually, I think it's pretty damn good. No one, I don't think, has ever been held up more than one light cycle to get through that intersection. No one has had to sit on the top of their hood of their car in a rainstorm because the thing flooded. That water underneath that underpass, that was an immovable object that, you know, what are you going to do? It's the railroad. That water had to go someplace. It went over to a pond. I think actually the Department of Transportation did a really pretty good job for what they had to work with to make that intersection really, really functional. And I just don't like to see this battering of the Department of Revenue or Department of Transportation, like, you know, hey, they did a bad job. I think for what they had to work with, I think they really did really pretty good. I mean, if you're going north on 6th, you got 2 lanes that turn left on Central, the other right lane just shoots right up 6th and you're gone. And I mean, I think they did for what they had to work with a really good job. And I would just take that into consideration because it's been beat around for a little bit here. I don't like. Then another subject, back to my noise. So this summer we had an opportunity. We stayed in a motel. Happened to get the motel towards the light at the intersection. Wasn't in Billings, but here we got this racing crap all night. It isn't just Billings, it's everywhere. How would you like to be the person that showed up at the brand new motel on Shiloh and King and got the room facing the roundabout? Good luck. I mean, these are nothing but just racetrack. How much noise can we make accelerating, deaccelerating through those roundabouts? I think part of the problem down there from the other day with those people in here about the apartments on Central, a lot of it is just the roundabout itself and the design and that need to, for whatever reason, let's see how much noise we can make getting away from and into the roundabouts. And I think that's a real problem. And I think it's a problem that for some reason just doesn't want to seem to get addressed. And I wish we'd take a more active approach, and I think we could. And I think the people of Billings deserve it, and the people that visit our town damn sure deserve a quiet night's sleep without being awakened all night long like on Shiloh. Thanks.
Very good. Thank you. Any other public comment on items not on our agenda? Seeing none, we're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.